church over there. The building, the smaller building here, is where the original church stood. All that remains, there's a set of stairs that are over there, and a graveyard. You can actually see a little bit of the graveyard to the left of the trees, the church there. And after you're done here, you can take a ride over there, and there's some interpretive markers. There's a circle there. Some of the gravestones over there have pockmarks from the bullets. Confederates advanced through there. Now this terrain in front of you, remember Barden's Woods is beyond you, the industrial buildings are at. There's a small strip of woods where some of those houses are at that you see. And Mulligan's men in the morning and the cavalry, their cavalry initially is driven back through those woods. Mulligan's out there, and the Confederates are on that high ground beyond those trees. Do you notice this field, how it's kind of very low? From over there it's low. The church sits on higher ground, and Barden's Woods is on higher ground. So not only did those sharpshooters have their skill advantage, but as Mulligan attempted to move his men, he's trying to maneuver. There's a stone wall running along a road that's no longer there, but it ran from about where those townhouses are at, all the way down to Apple Pie Road. And so it was lined with stone walls. Mulligan's men initially were aligned on that, and they start getting hit in the flank. So they tried to maneuver behind a rail fence that ran across the field, kind of in a east to west, but they're still getting nailed by those sharpshooters. So that's when he pulls back to the stone wall behind you. And you see that's higher ground there as well. So Mulligan's taken, not in terms of numbers, a large number of casualties in the late morning and early afternoon, but significant in that he's losing officers. The sharpshooters are picking them off. Now, when those orders come down from George Crook to attack, Mulligan is going to ride out along the lane to the Valley Pike. Mulligan doesn't have his coat on. He's got a green, what he called his battle shirt on, emerald green shirt in honor of his family's Irish heritage. And Rutherford B. Hayes has just arrived out and deployed his troops in line of battle on the east side of Route 11. And he sees Mulligan riding up. He'd never met the man before, but he knew of his reputation amongst the Irish, and saw this handsome looking officer in the green shirt riding towards him, and he rides up to him and says, "Ah, Colonel Mulligan, I presume." He says, "Ah, you must be Colonel Hayes." And they start talking about their orders and what little they know about the situation. Mulligan points off to the west and says, "One of my brigade commanders, Colonel Harris, has just informed me that they see Confederates in gray coats marching up over onto Sandy Ridge to the west." That would be Ramseur's division. Initially, that was going to be his primary way of winning this battle. Well, Hayes reports back that member of his staff has reported seeing men, scattered Confederates in the bushes on the ridge to the east. That's where I-81 is. That's Breckinridge leading Wharton's division in on the flank attack over there. Now, Crook has also sent south one of his staff officers, a Major Moore. And they both look to the staff officer, say, "Hey, should we still do this?" And the staff says, "Your orders are to go forward." And Hayes looks at Mulligan and says, "Well, at this point, we may as well go forward as any other direction," because he said, "We're gone up either way." So Hayes's men are going to start moving southward on the east side of the pike. Mulligan's men are going to move across these fields. One of the things about this area here, it's triangular in shape. The road, the middle road, kind of coming in like to a spokes to a hub. The Valley Pike is angling in. So as they move southward through these fields, they got more ground to cover than they have men to cover it. Thoburn, who is last to receive his orders, is going to slowly start to move forward on Sandy Ridge to the west, but right away he realizes he's got a brigade of cavalry and Ramseur's division to deal with up there, so he's not going to be able to simply move forward and collapse in the Confederate flank from the west because he has direct opposition. And so he will not be involved in the initial action here. So Mulligan's men are going to get out there, and probably for 20 minutes or so they'll take position in some of those woods, behind fences, wherever they can. And Gordon is going to send out like some, I would call, probably just spoiling attacks from the Confederates, designed to hold Mulligan out there in that advanced position. You know, Gordon's not trying to drive Mulligan away. He's just trying to keep Mulligan advanced in that exposed position. Well, meanwhile, as Hayes is moving southward, he gets down, his left flank is down in this low valley. Suddenly, a couple hundred yards off to his left, John C. Breckinridge gives the order, in about 2,800, 2,500 Confederates from Gabriel Wharton's division all trained their muskets on the left flank of the Union battle line. The Union cavalry that had been occupying that ridge has long been driven off. Occupying that troop, that position, was the 36th Ohio, George Crook's beloved Crook's Regulars, his first command during the Civil War. And they basically would be the focal point, their battle flag, of all the initial Confederate volleys, because they were on the end of the flank. The unit took about 200, 300 men, 280 to 300 men into battle, and they're going to lose over 100 of them. So about half of them are killed and wounded, most of them in that initial volley. The commander of that regiment was Major Jewett Palmer from Marietta, Ohio, on the Ohio River, just opposite of Parkersburg, West Virginia. He wrote in his journal, he's severely wounded in that initial volley. He said, this was the hottest 5 minutes of any place he was ever at in the war. Now, this man and his regiment fought at South Mountain. They fought at the bloodiest day at Antietam. They fought on the bloody fields of Chickamauga. They were at Cloyd's Mountain. They were at some heavily engaged major battlefields. And yet, that right there for him and his regiment was the hottest spot and the bloodiest place they had ever. What happens is Hayes's brigade collapses almost instantly. 3 of the 4 regiments start falling back in confusion. The regiment closest to the pike will fall back, and it's the 13th West Virginia, and it's never been in combat before, but its commander does an excellent job positioning it in an apple orchard just opposite of the other side of Route 11 where you turn to enter the KBA property, and they will hold out there for a while. But that all takes time to develop. And so as they fall back, Mulligan's left flank starts falling back in confusion. When they see what's happening, they order the troops here to fall back. And Mulligan's men are going to be behind the stone wall. And there they will rally. Now I say they will rally, but the battle is lost. The battle was lost before Hayes and Mulligan moved forward to launch their attack. So we'll go now and we'll just think about what's happening here. If you were here late afternoon, about 3 o'clock in the afternoon, you're going to have Mulligan's men streaming back here. Relatively good order because they're reacting to what's happening on the far left flank. And if they stay out here and try and hold out, they're going to be cut off and thrown into confusion. So they're prudently falling back out there. Some of the closer you are to the pike, you're falling back much quicker and in a bit more confusion. Gordon's men, though, are not going to rush out here, but the sharpshooters are. One Georgian noted that they're going to crawl through some low ground. It's overgrown now, but back when this used to get mowed occasionally, you could see there were like some drainage flows that came right down to the creek. these sharpshooters talked about crawling through there and getting up into the stream bed there and engaging the Union troops from that stream bed, the ones who were behind the stone wall there. And then, you know, then the line of battle would follow. But they're not, go ahead.
How high was the grass?
This is a field. It was actively being mowed and pasture land for cows and things. So they're out there keeping it low. We have sketches of it from the James Taylor sketchbook, which he drew sketches like 3 weeks, 2.5 weeks after the battle. And yeah, it's all low grass.
So the guys were exposed when they were out there on the hill.
Yeah,
You
there
could
was
plainly
not
see
this.
them crawling through the grass.
Yeah, but
Like it is now.
and they mentioned, yeah, that it was like through this drainage ditch or run. And the other thing that you can pick up is as we walk back, you're going to look at the stream and you're going to see it's like 6-7 feet down.
Perfect.
That's all post-Civil War erosion. If you look at it in these sketches, it's a brook running through the field. Where you see you see there, it's not a deep gully that you're looking at. And I'd often wondered, like, you know, the soldiers, you know, they don't mention, because Mulligan's men are going back and forth. And if they're climbing down into that and out of that, that's the type of thing, you know, soldiers might mention. They might even say, yeah, we stopped here to take shelter to fire back or something. But nobody mentions Hog Run in their accounts. You know, and you see it's not that deep of a stream, but it's been worn down.
For Crook and the release of troops, did he withhold, and was there troops that he could have further sent down?
No, he's only leaves one brigade at Winchester at this point. He sent Mulligan's division's here, Dufier's division was down here. So he has one other cavalry, Averill, which he has sent upon the Fool's Errand on the Front Royal Road, and Thoburn's entire division is on Sandy Ridge, and Crook's going to arrive just as things are starting to go south down here on the battlefield. And I think Duval's division, only Hayes's brigade came forward, and Duval stays as kind of a rear guard with everything up at Winchester. So he didn't have a lot. I mean, he's outgunned, and then he finds himself now outpositioned in a no-win situation. More troops probably would add to the casualty count and the prisoners captured. Yeah.
So it might have been too little too late.
Yeah. His best move is probably fall back, you know, or try and bring more artillery down, hold Pritchard's Hill, hold that, and be ready to see what's happening and fall back before it, you know, or at Bowers Hill on the south end of Winchester, where there were a lot of fortifications that Milroy had constructed that perhaps he could have used. But yeah, what ifs in hindsight make it a lot easier to general.
Was Crook getting an idea of what was going on after Mulligan had to fall back?
He is. So there's going to be a point. I'll just explain it because you asked the question. But Crook comes up, and when he's here, it's like it's a Homer Simpson uh-oh moment when that massive volley hits his left flank over there with Hayes. And it's at that point, several interim orders had been given to Thoburn to try and adapt to the situation. But after that, he gives Thoburn orders, you get to the south end of Winchester and occupy the fortifications there as a rear guard. You know, he knew at that point that couldn't be salvaged. So Crook works diligently to do what he could to extract as much of these men from the pending disaster.
Thoburn ever connected with Mulligan?
Briefly, in West Virginia, they
on the line here.
No.
So there was a gap between Thoburn
and
Mulligan?
and you know, Mulligan. Well, they're never really together. Mulligan, I think, thinks at one point they were, but there'll be a story I'll talk about that comes into play and answers that question. So let's head back up to the stone wall now.